And we are live here on the 100 Years of Wealth podcast. What's going on, folks? I hope you're all doing well. Thanks for tapping in. Real talk, this is the first official content coming out of this new podcast situation that we're going to be putting together here. When I say we, I mean me. You know how it goes, but I'm being silly, but I will be having people that I work with, people that I know from different walks of life come through, share the couch with me, talk some game, drop some jewels on us, and really just aim to provide value through different aspects. You know, if you look at my other content, it's really mainly geared around the mortgage and real estate industry. I tend to really only talk about the things that I can actually provide some sort of like in-depth information on, not really trying to jump on every topic out there and just kind of switch it up. But I will speak of different things as I learn them, but most of my in-depth knowledge is around my business, the mortgage industry, the real estate industry, things like that. So that's where you'll see most of my content. But what I plan on doing with the podcast is bringing in people from different professions, different hustles, different businesses, whether they are salary 9-to-5 employees at a company or whether they started their own company. I think that, different aspects, people are having success in different areas of life and, achieving goals through different methods. And I think it's good to just share that information and put it out there. And for me, learn from it. Hopefully people that are listening will learn from it. Because there's a lot to learn out there, and as we grow, I think that if we keep attaining information that's valuable and we actually try to make adjustments to get the things that we want, whether it's financial, health, relationship wise, that's how you achieve the goals. You make adjustments, so thanks for tapping in. So the first episode was going to be with a friend of mine that's actually a recording artist that took a long hiatus from the industry, but is back now pushing forward in music. And I wish him the best. We're gonna hop on an interview and just chop it up about his road in life, how he got where he is currently, what I guess trials and tribulations you could say did he have during the process of getting going in the music industry, and what his plans are going forward to try to achieve whatever goals he has, and besides that, just like what other ways is he operating today, life with kids, family, where he's from, all that stuff. Should be an interesting combo, but we had to reschedule that, so I figured that the first conversation I'd have here would really just be me kind of talking about where 100 Years of Wealth came from, how the name came up. Obviously that's the name of the podcast, but that's also been the name of a clothing brand for me. It's also been the name of like a small little production company that we were operating years back when I was heavy into film production and trying to like manage an artist or two. So we'll start there. So years back, as you know, I'm still currently in the mortgage industry, but years back I was working for a company and sitting at my desk, I have a history in graffiti, so I'm always sketching, always drawing on paper, whether I'm on the phone with a customer or whether I am, typing up an application, and then like, once I'm done typing it, I'm just kind of like chilling for a moment, doodling some stuff, but that's kind of always how it's been ever since I got into graffiti. And so, I'm sitting there doodling, and normally I'm doodling things like the crew that I'm from, or I'm doing my name, or I'm doing a friend's name, or, just random stuff. And then, as I'm sitting there at this loan company, obviously my objective in my mind is completely on making money, building wealth, and just thinking about that. This is like back in 2009. And so I'm sitting there, and then I just sketch out, 100 Years of Wealth. And I kind of think back on that, and, even though this company hasn't made $1 billion yet, Even though it's not where it is, I still feel like that's kind of like or it's not where it's going to be one day. I still feel like that's kind of like a magical moment where, that shit was just dope. It just happened, just sketched it out, wrote 100 Years of Wealth, and then that kind of started me on some different journeys where I was like, wow, this name's dope. How could I put it out there? You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, all right, well, I like clothing. I like messing around with clothing. This is like in the early days before, I guess when you look back, you might think, I'm sure a lot of people at that time had their own brands and things like that, but a whole different wave of entrepreneurs are out there now where, you have millions upon millions of clothing brands. I felt like streetwear was very active, already established back then, like in the early 2000s, but, or like even when I'm talking about 2008, 2009, like streetwear was already established, but I felt like it still was something where it wasn't like everyone was popping up with a brand yet. I feel like nowadays you just have way more of that, which is great. People see that they have the opportunity to create something on their own, and they know how to facilitate it. They know how to get the silkscreen stuff going, the DTG, direct to garment printing. They know where to buy the wholesale merchandise, all that stuff. But my point is that at that time, that was like a viable medium for me to express that term to people. I'm not a rapper, right? So I'm not gonna go and like make a song about 100 Years of Wealth, but I did know a rapper, so I was like, hey, look, 100 Years of Wealth could be like the record label, the production company, because I just thought that name could apply to so many different types of just different types of businesses, different type of models of life. It's kind of like, not the name, but it's kind of like the concept of like Nipsey Hussle's The Marathon Continues, right? It's like that can apply to so much stuff, and that's the reason why I think it sticks well, because a lot of people are just like, you can grab that and apply it to whatever you're going through in your life, whatever goal you're trying to achieve, and it pretty much rings true. So I felt like 100 Years of Wealth, you can apply that to, 100 years of health, family, love, all that stuff kind of falls under that umbrella, and I thought that I could dictate that best, or illustrate that best to a clothing brand. So I really started pushing hard on that. I would say 2009, shortly after I wrote it down, I wanted to wear it, so I created some different t-shirts I thought were pretty dope. I feel like I didn't really understand what it took to actually make a clothing brand crack, right? Like, I was doing it from my own like personal perspective. I was just kind of going at it with like a very like mom and pop perspective. Like, I'm gonna sell units on my big cartel website, and then I'm gonna put up some guerrilla marketing because I had the graffiti pass. So I was the graffiti pass. So I was doing wheat paste stuff out on La Brea, out on Melrose, out there throwing up posters wherever I could, and I felt like that era of promotion. I think you could always do some sort of street marketing, guerrilla marketing to promote something, but I think nowadays the more savvy approach is going to be probably pushing through social media and like developing your brand that way. But I was doing what was available to me and what was like what I knew, and would allow me to kind of get active right away, as opposed to like taking a longer process and like figuring out the better long-term approach. I was looking for like, how quickly can I get something done? And I think that always kind of leads you into a path that is going to bring you like quick results, quick rewards, but not the full rewards. It's not going to give you like exactly what you're really aiming for, and I think that it puts you in a position where you're probably going to end up tapping out or having to make a lot of adjustments to actually stay active. For me, I did that for many years, maybe like a good 4 or 5 years straight, before even really considering slowing up on it, because I was just like, balancing doing mortgages, and I already had a daughter at that time, so I couldn't really just in my own mind decide that I'm only gonna like really consider my dreams. I'm like, I have a daughter that I have to like pay attention to. I have to make sure I'm consistent with my income. I have to make sure I have the funds, when she needs things. So it was like I had to make a choice to either really dive further in with real estate and home loans, or dive all the way in with clothing. And I think like when I look back now, I'm like, okay, I could have dove in all the way with clothing and really pushed that and made it happen. But I guess in my mind, I didn't really have a clear vision on exactly how I would get there. So, but on the other side, I did have a clear vision on how I would get there with mortgage and real estate. And that's, I think, the reason why I pushed forward with that, and I'm where I'm at with that at this current moment, which I think I'm doing well. I have a company that I've built, and it's growing even in like a down market. There's aspects of it that are growing. There's other aspects of it that have slowed down because of the market. But I think that, as the market contracts, as long as you're building and structuring, you'll expand back out. So, as I was doing the 100 Years of Wealth stuff, along with the pushing the clothing, we're, doing the 100 Years of Wealth production, doing music videos. I did a few music videos for a couple of other artists, but mainly it was just one artist that I was really working with. And for a moment, that was something that 100 Years of Wealth stood for me, where I was pushing out content, and that was like a creative outlet where I felt like I could really develop and just express myself in an artistic way. And then of course I'm thinking from the big picture of like, how are we going to eventually make money on this? But once again, it's like, if you don't really dive all the way in on something and kind of force it to be your primary source of income, I think it's really easy just to do it and not figure out, how you're going to actually turn it, how you're going to actually monetize it. And I think it's also a sign of like my age at that time, and probably where that industry was, where now there's a lot more clear, clear representations of successful independent film production companies, or even just film directors individually. When I think maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago, we were coming out of an era where, you still had like major video producers kind of like be the ones that are like representing what successful is in the industry. Now it's like it's totally different, But once again, there's people out there that were shooting YouTube videos back then, or shooting their own independent content, that were having success. I just think it's individually where you are at the time that kind of makes or breaks if you're going to end up pushing forward in something. But so that those things, I feel like even though I didn't push forward all the way, they stayed with me. So that's the reason why I've always want to shoot my own content, always want to have some sort of visual outlet. And then also just the side of having done that before and knowing how a lot of these things work technically to a certain degree. I'm no professional, but knowing how it works to a certain degree, it makes it to where when you do decide, or when you do think of something creative that you want to dive into, it's not like starting from scratch. You already have some knowledge of it prior, because of things that you have tried before. So I think it is good to try things, and maybe they come back to you at a different time when you're more like financially stable, when you are actually have that mind, that headspace to where you can really dive in, and you're able to focus more on just like what it's going to take to make it work. So yeah, but the whole time I just had a feeling and had an idea that 100 Years of Wealth wasn't going to go away. I always kept owning the domain name, and just kind of like playing with different concepts, and just kicking it around the back of my head, knowing that one day I would bring the brand back in some way, shape, or form. And then we came across I got back to the idea of pushing out content and how I would do it. And that's where I was like, of course the name has to be 100 Years of Wealth. I think just the name by itself gives you value, not even just for me, right? It gives the individual who's reading the name some value, because it's like, shit, like, you get the message. We're out here trying to push something positive, really success oriented, but 100 Years of Wealth is never just financial. You know what I mean? It's always going to include that health, that happiness, that family component. So I'm sure you're gonna hear that theme over and over again with me. But yeah. So next video, you're gonna see I'm gonna be popping in with somebody. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not exactly certain just yet. Might be a rap artist that I know. Might be a local cannabis entrepreneur that I know. It might be some mortgage partners that I have that have some interesting, perspectives. It might be, just a person that works for a company, a 9 to 5 job that's killing it, making great money, or a person that works at a 9 to 5 job that doesn't make much money or doesn't make a ton of money, but has a great perspective and can possibly provide you some valuable information. I think that valuable information comes in all shapes and sizes, I guess you can say, like depending, and it's really up to you on how you take it. I think, that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be doing a book club in here, right? I read this book a long time ago, and I'm sure a bunch of people have read this book because it's been like on the top 10 advised list to read for all hustlers and, all that type of stuff for a long time, but it's called The Alchemist. And I think that if you read it, your interpretation may be different, but there was one part in the book where, I'm not going to give it away, but it was just like the whole little story that happened in that section of the book was about the concept of how you take something, right? Like the same exact thing could happen to two different people, and one person can look at it one way, the other person could look at it differently, right? That's like an obvious statement, but what I mean by that is like I could, have something happen to me like on Friday. I'm like loading these lights into my car, and then and this is, keep in mind, a newer car that I just got, and I'm putting the damn plug in the car, and the plug gets stuck outside the trunk, right onto the back windshield. The trunk comes down because my sensor, I like rub my leg against the sensor below the car. I didn't even touch the trunk. And then it starts to close, and it pushes the damn plug into my back window and cracks it. Keep in mind, I've had this car for like 3 weeks, right? So hella frustrating, hella annoying. Gonna cost me, some bread for something that really didn't have to happen. But my point is that, of course, you could be annoyed, but you got to ask yourself, like, how quickly are you going to, are you that person that looks at it totally in a negative light and cannot adjust your mind state? Or are you going to convert that into some sort of positive experience that you gain from, right? And I know some scenarios are going to be harder to do that than others, but that's the name of the game, with the information you take in. What do you do with it? And we're all to a certain, I won't say we're getting the same information, but we're all getting a bunch of information. And it's up to you as an individual to kind of synthesize that shit and, put it, execute some sort of plan that leads to your lifelong success, right? Like, and the lifelong success includes, taking care of your source by obtaining resources on this planet, down to the basics, right? And then, as well as health, making it to the finish line, living a long, healthy life is always the goal. And obviously some things are out of our control, but it's up to us to kind of really try to manage the things that we can control. But yeah, so yeah, hopefully on this channel we crack some jokes that make you laugh. It's going to be a lot of fun, but really the conversation is going to be centered around like achieving, having success, pushing forward, making some gains. So like and subscribe if you already haven't. Let's keep this channel growing. And I think we just hit our 200th subscriber. So 200, right? Small flies or small fries to some of the big boys out there, to all the big boys with millions of subscribers. But this is one of those things where like Jay-Z said, it started with a mustard seed, and I think that's like something that comes out of the Bible, but I'll quote Jigga on that. But it starts with something small, and consistency is what is going to push you to that next level. I'm sure that you get a little sprinkled luck in there, but I think luck is just really consistency and your goals, and your constant kind of push towards the achievement of a goal. And sometimes different little things might work in your favor, and people call it luck, but it's just really about pushing forward and staying focused through all the ups and downs and all the crap. But anyways, 100 years of wealth. Cheers to you and yours. Like and subscribe. share, hit the bell notifications. I'm going to be consistent with this and be dropping content on you. We're going to grow this, and I'm going to make sure I bring some interesting people across the couch to chat with you and holla at you. So stay up, folks. See you next time. Peace.